ṣáájú mi lọ tó ń ṣáájú mi bọ̀. ọ̀nà yòówù kéṣù lè gbà ló ń bá mi di pátápátá. ìmásífù God. gbogbo ọ̀nà mi ò tí mo rìn nílé ráyé Olúwa ń ṣáájú mi lọ ó tún ń ṣáájú mi bọ̀. gbogbo ọ̀nà téṣù lè gbà ló ń bá mi di pátápátá. àníṣe gbogbo ọ̀nà tí mo ń rìn Olúwa ti ń ṣáájú mi lọ tó ń ṣáájú mi bọ̀. ọ̀nà yòówù téṣù lè gbà ló ń bá mi di pátápátá. ìmásífù God. àfijọ́ yín bàbá. àfijọ́ yín bàbá ògo. má fi yìn ní Olúwa. má fi yìn ní ọba ògo. má fọ̀yàyà ní Olúwa rán. má fọ̀yàyà ní ọba ògo. má fi ìlù dídùn ní Olúwa rán. má fi ìlù dídùn ní ọba ògo. má fi inú dídùn jó fún Olúwa. má fi inú dídùn ní ọba ògo. má fàtẹ́wọ́ lé Elédùmarè ọba mímọ́. ẹ bá ń ra bàbá fọ́ba ògo. ọba tẹ́rẹ̀ẹ́rẹ́ kárí ayé. ṣóun tó wù mí Olódùmarè má ṣàìṣe fún mi. ohun tó wù mí o ohun tó wù mí o Èdùmàrè má ṣàìṣe fún mi. ohun tó wù mí láyé mi. ilé lẹgbẹ́ mi ń kọ́ Èdùmàrè kọ́ tèmi fún mi. ohun tó wù mí o ohun tó wù mí o Èdùmàrè má ṣàìṣe fún mi. ohun tó wù mí láyé mi.
System, and we hope that after 29th June everybody will open up, so we hope that people will then make sure they file their tax return. Additionally, we have discovered that the requirement for tax clearance in various states of the country are forcing people to come and declare their taxes, because you can't take your child to school, for instance, in some states if you don't show your tax clearance. And as we expand the requirement for tax clearances, people will be forced to file their tax return.
How should they go about it, especially government workers whose taxes are being deducted from source?
Yeah, it's very good for the government workers because if they didn't deduct it from source, it would have been more difficult for them. After they have spent the money, then you ask them to remove something and pay. So it is an advantage for them. They may not understand why it is being done that way. Now, because it has already been removed from source, unless you have other sources of income, all that you need to do is to go to the tax office or to go to our online portal, file a tax return to say this is all the tax, this is all the income you have, and you've already been assessed, and it has been deducted. And we will give you tax clearance on the basis of that, except if you have other sources which you didn't declare, which will come against it. Then we can give you additional assessment. But for the workers whose income are being deducted, it's very easy. Just file your tax return, because the law requires that you should file a tax return.
What do they need to come with for filing of their tax return?
Well, because if your only source of income is your salary, you have no problem. Every worker that is being paid a salary has a receipt of his income monthly. So with the payslip, you know how much you've earned. In case you have forgotten, you know how much you've earned. But in the case of workers, we treat them on that year's basis. So for 2019, for instance, you know how much has been deducted from your salary through your payslip from January to December. Once you do that, we look at it. What we also try to do is to ensure that whatever is deducted from you by your agent has been paid over to the tax office. And we have a place to verify. So we will check. Because there are lots of agents that deduct these taxes and they don't send. Hopefully in the next 3 months, we will be sending an alert to every worker. Once your employer deducts tax from your salary and he remits it, we will send you an alert that will receive from Julius Berger this amount on your behalf so that you can keep a record of it. Because some people come here and look for tax and we say, no, your employer has not paid the tax on your behalf, so we will not give you a tax clearance.
What is your message for residents on tax payment?
Residents of Abuja, I think we are unlucky. If we say Nigeria is a third world country, but if we look at Abuja, Abuja is a first world country, in the sense that our infrastructure are as good as it is in Japan, in Germany, in America, anywhere in the world. So while you are living probably in a country, in a third world country, but you are lucky that you are in Abuja, where every development is there. So help the government to help you. There are still more things we can do. If you're in the central business district, all of these are available. But we need to develop all the satellite towns to be as good as we have in the central business district. So I'm urging the residents of Abuja to please try and pay their taxes more. We'll encourage them so that we can give them better services.
It pays to pay tax. Contribute your quota to nation building by paying your tax. This is where we wrap it up on today's tidbit.
Oh, yeah. We're doing a test, right? Okay. Once again, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear
We want to do
me?
a small test of our equipment, so
Okay.
we'll have a small chat. Ahead of time.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
It's 10 o'clock. Good morning and welcome to another edition of your Good Governance and Public Accountability Program on the network service of Radio Nigeria. Have your say. I am Olayemi Daniel, your guide. Welcome on board. The present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has hit 5 years in office. The present administration has given priority on the health sector over time. That is besides the three major issues when it came on board, which is economy, security, as one some of the most very cogent issues at the time. Now, what are the gains and the challenges so far, especially in the face of the new normal, which is adapting to the COVID-19 situation? That's not just in Nigeria, but the entire globe. Our guest today is the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osagie Ehanire, to speak on government's efforts towards combating community spread of COVID-19 and the efforts of the present administration so far in the area of repositioning the health sector in Nigeria. Dr. Ehanire, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio once again.
Thank you. Good morning, listeners.
I can say a friend of the house is no longer a new experience to be here.
Yes, I'm a friend of the house, I'm a friend of the listeners, and hope we shall be able to have some exchange of ideas and new information.
But the difference now is that we have to be in masks and sit quite far from each other.
Social distancing.
All right. Okay. Now, for Nigerians, join the conversation as we are streaming live on www.facebook.com/Radio Nigeria Network, or simply Radio Nigeria. The lines to call to be part of the conversation that will be later on is 0807 622 6771 and 0705 149 3324. Once again, the lines to call to be part of the program later is 0807 622 6771 and 0705 149 3324. For SMS and WhatsApp only, send to 0705 864 2473. Once again, for SMS and WhatsApp only, send to 0705 864 2473. Please turn down the volume of your radio set to avoid a holdback. That is when you get across to us. Make your contributions short and straight to the point. Thank you very much. Now over to you, Honorable Minister. You were our guest on this program previously. The major concern, as at the time and even now, remains the COVID-19 pandemic. Honorable Minister, what is the situation, especially with cogent issues now like community spread?
You have to look at COVID-19, first of all, on a global scale. This is now a global epidemic. It is a pandemic that is challenging the health systems of all countries of the world, and every country is grappling with getting control of this spread of this disease. In Nigeria, we face the same challenge. If you have a large population, if you have a lot of mobility of people who travel around, then you definitely have risks. In Nigeria, we are trying to get control of the rate of spread and at the same time reduce the fatality rate, because we want to preserve the lives of Nigerians, which is exactly what the entire health sector is about.
Okay. Now let's look at socio-economic activities which had to be put on hold, public gatherings and so on. Tell us about efforts to sustain the current level of measures by the federal government to contain COVID-19 further.
Yes, there are very many measures that are under consideration. We are watching other countries, watch what they do. We are also looking at our country and our citizens and watching our natural behavior patterns and seeing how they tally with what will lead to control of this disease. Now, the aim is to be able to balance lives against livelihoods. And there's a trade-off here and there. We want to be able to preserve the economy so people can continue to have their means of livelihood and sustenance. At the same time, to carry out measures that will make sure that so many people do not get sick and overwhelm the health system, and again, which will impact the economy. So the effort of government is both to allow the economy to run as best as it can under the circumstances, while at the same time making sure that measures are tightened which do not expose Nigerians to risks. That is why you have the non-pharmaceutical interventions, which are very well stressed now to reduce the risk of infection.
Okay, let's look at another aspect that was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, like we said earlier, it's quite global and every aspect is affected. Nigeria as a country, we had to review and re-strategize with our budget. That's the budget for the coming year, 2021. What are the lessons learned and what do we expect to see in terms of implementing it, particularly when it regards health?
Well, with regard to health, all countries are doing exactly the same thing, trying to restructure their budget. And in Nigeria, we have done a revision of that. This, again, I say, is a new virus. Its behavior is not yet fully understood. We're just beginning to get a hold of how it spreads. Some countries appear to have made mistakes when they reopen too early or reopen in the wrong place. And the result has been that you see spikes coming up once they begin to loosen the economy. So the effort of government here is to minimize losses and maximize the gains that are going to be expected from the measures we are taking. And so you're keeping a very close watch, and the government has to walk a very narrow and tight lane between preserving livelihoods and also preserving lives. That's not very easy to make, and adjustments are necessary along the way.
All right, let's look at the educational sector. I know that is not on the ministry, but there is a direct effect on the health sector. For instance, children are yet to go back to school. How soon do we expect your ministry to permit us to allow our children to go to school? What's your projection?
Well, I will first of all go on to the measures that we are taking. First, we have now come to realize that masks are extremely important. We have to wear a mask, and your mask not only protects your neighbor, his mask protects you. So masks should become mandatory. We want to see everybody wearing a mask. Secondly, we do not want crowding, and we do not want, we want social distancing. We do not want too many people congregating. That's why we look at markets. Anybody who goes into a market now should be wearing a mask. They should be avoiding gathering too many places. But the experience we have seen from other countries regarding schools is that in every country where they have reopened schools, they have seen a spike. And of course, that's a lesson you learn, because I have just said that we watch other countries, see what happens there, and take an example from there. So there are countries, or nearly all countries, shut their borders and close their schools. But they've noticed that once you reopen schools, because of mass movement of children up and down, the fact that children sit together in school, play together, the ease of transmission among children can be very high. And not only that, the children will not have that many symptoms because of quite robust immunity. But when they get home and play with interact with their parents, with their relatives and grandparents who may not be in very robust health, they can be the one transmitting this illness and then leading to very serious consequences. So many countries are very careful about reopening schools because it has consequences that have not been pleasant. So the government is trying to work out modalities in other countries where they have reopened schools, working with this same logic. They have designed ways of being able to create distancing in schools, reduce the number of students per classroom, and then give teachers a solid education on preventive measures, sanitizing, hand washing, and also regulate the way children play with each other. We're learning lessons which will probably affect our lives for quite a while, but we need to allow education to go on at some point. The Ministry of Education is looking at how to adapt those lessons to Nigerian schools, and so that education can come on. Not everybody can do online education. So that sector is being worked upon as we speak.
Okay. So are we looking at a date that will be announced soon, or do we follow the dates that we've heard? There are so many dates coming up. Some are saying end of the month, some are saying early July.
Well, it's a matter of date, but also a matter of preparation. You have to prepare the schools, prepare the teachers. There are some concepts that say that the teachers should resume first and then be giving good lessons on how to manage their students in the face of COVID-19. And again, the states also have a role to play. And how long the students have to commute from home to school, who are day students. So all those features have to be considered. And the aim is to have safety and not to reopen schools and discover that you have a massive spike in infections and fatalities. So those things are they are being calculated to have the best of both sides.
All right, let's now move to infrastructure and the necessary equipment in the health sector. Across the country, especially when the COVID-19 pandemic came to the country some months ago, there was the need for us to have the necessary facility to manage the situation. Isolation centers, test centers, test kits, and so on and so forth. How soon can all these things be put on ground fully, especially to beyond COVID-19, to prepare us for the future as a country?
Yes, we are looking at this COVID-19 outbreak, and when I say we, I'm not even talking of Nigeria alone. All countries, all health systems are looking at this as a call to review your health system, and that is what we are doing here. It's also an opportunity for us to rebuild and adjust the health system, because we are realizing for the first time that we're actually on our own. It's not everything now that, or for everybody, that you can run abroad for treatment, even if you get a visa. There's a huge opportunity to restructure the health system. I haven't seen any health system that was prepared. This outbreak caught everybody, all countries, by surprise, and most health systems, in fact, nearly collapsed. In Europe, we saw what happened. There were global shortages of all this equipment we are talking about now, ventilators, masks, and protective equipment. They were in short supply everywhere because of huge demand. But we have been able to keep a fairly good stock, and we have a stockpile that we have as reserve at any time there's need, and we have continued to receive good consignments of personal protective equipment and masks and so on. And we received last Saturday a good consignment from our One Basket fund system, which we operate with together with the European Union and the UN group of agencies here. And then we have also received consignments, or expecting consignments, from the West African Health Organization, and from other bilateral relations with China, and with other countries who have offered us various forms of, even individuals like Jack Ma have offered us enough of the equipment. But we're discovering also the shift in needs and priorities. We used to focus very much on ventilators, but we are realizing now that oxygen concentrators are more important, because many more patients require oxygen concentrators than ventilators. So while we are keeping our ventilators in reserve, we're actually using, in the case of Lagos, for every 400 patients, they are using 4 ventilators. So that means that ventilators are not, at least for our own area, not as much required as oxygen concentrators. Oxygen concentrators are the preferred means. Most patients who are breathless do well with oxygen supplementation than the ventilators, yes. But we're not writing off the ventilators. In fact, we're expecting gifts of ventilators from the United States, which we shall also add to our stock and inventory. They can also be used for other purposes, even beyond COVID-19, yes. So there are a lot of assets that we can adapt to the health system afterwards.
But is the design of this oxygen concentrators, are they similar to ventilators, maybe in the design or the form of what it looks like?
No, they're not the same. Oxygen concentrators actually concentrate oxygen in order to offer the patient who cannot breathe well a higher percentage of oxygen. So it will help him to get more oxygen to breathe, but he can breathe on his own. Now the ventilator is mechanical support for ventilation, for pushing air into the patient's lungs and out when the situation is really bad, that they can't breathe by themselves, so they need mechanical support. Whereas the concentrator just increases the percentage of oxygen that you take in, but you are breathing very well by yourself, and it helps. It's enough in most cases, the majority of cases.
So let's look at the capacity now. For instance, if you have a ventilator and you have about 10, 20 patients, can it be enough to serve? Or it has to be one ventilator to one patient?
Well, generally it's one ventilator to one patient, and at the moment we have a good number of ventilators which are serving their purpose. In fact, we're not using all that we have. We have a good reserve.
Okay. Now, let's move on to labor issues. It will be difficult for us to talk without mentioning the issue of health workers threatening to go on strike every now and then. It's quite incessant. How do we plan or ensure that we do not have these strikes coming too often? We just got out of one. I'll say congratulations, because many Nigerians were worried. I believe you were as well. So how do we prevent this from happening too often?
We were very worried. You are correct. I was very worried. We had a lot of meetings with the doctors and also with the mediators, like the labor union and even the Speaker of the House, the chairman of the committees, and a lot of other people with their goodwill intervened, and including governors of states who did a good job trying to persuade doctors not to go on strike at this time. And the main thrust will be the messaging, the understanding that this is a pandemic. It affects all people. It can even affect health workers. Many health workers have been affected and infected. So it is a question of everybody knowing that this is a general problem. Secondly, the solution is from all of us. We don't want to put it in the hand of government. That's a government, you take care, and if you're not doing your piece, then I will not do my piece. That is not correct. That's not a good way to look at it. If your house is on fire, everybody comes out, including the tenant, the owner, everybody, because we are all stakeholders in here. So therefore, we must not look at it as government's effort, and you must give me this, give me that. If you don't give me this, I won't work. That is not the correct way at all. We don't want to be the only country in the world where health workers are going on strike in the middle of a pandemic. That is not a good image. For what we know, other countries, all doctors are volunteering. They are even reusing personal protective equipment. They are reusing masks. Everybody knows that there's a sacrifice involved. And we want to be able to support all our health workers in the fight for their rights. We support them, but not to use a moment of vulnerability as an opportunity to start pressing for things which we know are your rights, but we are going to support you in, but not to use a moment like this to start making demands that make people uncomfortable, where we know that a lot of the citizens are not quite happy with this development. And I want to use the opportunity to urge all healthcare workers to talk about their needs, and we shall support them, but do not down tools. This is not a time to down tools.
All right. Now, let's also look at the issue of outside COVID-19, because let's not forget we're talking about the performance of the present administration in the last 5 years. There is also the challenge of Lassa fever and one or two other issues, of malaria and so on in the health sector. How are we managing this other aspect besides COVID-19? Have we abandoned that aspect?
That's a good question. That is something which people have been drawing attention to, especially our international partners. They were very concerned that a lot of the programs that they were supporting were going to suffer. And it did look like that, because, as you know, this outbreak started in Lagos and spread to some few cities. And the scare around it was such that people started suspecting anyone that came around with a fever of having COVID and refusing to attend to them. And in some cases, in fact, health workers abandoned their duty post and they didn't show up for work. So the result was that we had a dip in routine services like antenatal clinics and skilled birth attendants and immunization started to go down, which was not a good idea, because we started having cases where we were beginning to see mortality go up in those areas where they should have been saved. But we have attacked that frontally. We have brought all the various programs and departments in the ministry, Department of Family Health, Department of Primary Health Care Development Agency, and so on, and the Department of Hospital Services, to join delegations to states to go and assure health workers. We have brought out the best of our virus disease experts from all over the place, particularly Irua, where we have a good center for virus disease, to join in training health workers so they don't get self-infected, and remove the scare and also instill confidence in them. So we have done quite well in that. We have done that in Kano, we're doing that in Lagos, and this infection prevention and training control. Training is going on all over the country to train over 15,000 persons so far, and going up to increase confidence and prepare the personnel for handling the infectious diseases.
Let's not talk about what I'll say that my own people in this fight against COVID-19. How would you assess the performance of the media in terms of sensitizing the public, ensuring that the government knows what's going on at the grassroots and so on? How would you assess the performance of the media?
The media is an extremely important partner in this struggle. I have said just now that this is a struggle for everybody. Health workers are on one side, media are on the other side. The government and the authorities who are dealing with this infection continue to discover more and more things about it, about how to prevent and how to save your life. And we inform the public. Now it's left to the media to carry these messages down to the people in ways that they understand, and above all in ways that they take them seriously. Because one of my greatest concerns is that people do hear these messages, but they don't take them seriously. Somehow or the other, maybe there's something wrong with the way we communicate it. To communicate something in a way that people actually get it, or in the way that they say, oh yes, I've heard, but they don't really understand the impact or the content of it. There are people, for example, who put on a mask, but they drop it under their chin, and that defeats the purpose. So the media play a very important role in communicating and information management, in risk communication and mobilization for information for the people.
Okay, many Nigerians are also interested in donations that have been made over time. Some are saying that there's no transparency in the way these monies are disbursed or the way they are spent. Some say that they don't even know if money is coming into Nigeria. That's donations from foreign bodies and even some well-meaning Nigerians as well. How are these funds being managed, and what is the process of receiving them?
Well, many people make the mistake of thinking that people are coming here and dropping money. That's not what is happening. The majority of the cases is that people procure goods and bring to us. If you take the UN body, for example, the UN agencies here, they mobilize $2 million. Now, they purchase things that we need. They tell you what you need, and they purchase these things and bring to us. But when you hear they gave $2 million, you think that somebody has it in an account. No. The same thing for the coalition against COVID-19 of business enterprises in Nigeria. They are helping us, giving us tremendous help, and they spent a lot of money. They've said this, in fact, they've put in billions. But these are not billions they put in our hands or in an account. It's for supporting us in various ways, helping to build the This-Day Dome Isolation Center, for example, the one at Idu, and various testing laboratories that they supported and bought for us. It's not cash in hand. And the same thing for the Jack Ma, it's not cash in hand, it's goods. For the European Union, it's not cash in hand, it's goods mostly. So the majority of these donations are in kind and material. Only very few is cash, and this is going to dedicated accounts, and not the main source of funding. We have also been very pleased to receive donations from even medical unions working in hospital who gather their own small amount of money, and they bring things to us. So this is our own contribution. I think that's very noble. We respect that kind of donation from our healthcare unions, our hospital unions, who are not only clamoring to receive but also ready to give. We find that quite noble, and respect that a lot. So the fact is that most of all these donations are not in cash. They're in kind, and the ones that are in cash are in. There are some that are dedicated, they are sent straight away to particular programs, for example, to NCDC directly. Okay. They say, we want you to use this for that.
For this purpose, whatever.
Exactly, so they're already targeted right from beginning. So that money does not go into the government, doesn't go to the federal government, doesn't go to the federal ministry. It goes straight to that program. Some of cash is going that way. Okay. And also directly for a purpose. They tell you, this is what I want my money to do. So that's the way this situation looks like with donations.
All right. If you're just joining us, the program is Have Your Say, coming to you live on the network service of Radio Nigeria. And we have been speaking with the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osagie Ihianire, who has been giving us insight on efforts of the present administration in repositioning the health sector and the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Don't forget, after the break, the lines to call are 0807 622 6771 and 0705 149 3324. The lines once again, 0807 622 6771 and 0705 149 3324. Don't forget, you can also get through to us via SMS and WhatsApp on the line 0705 864 2473. You can also join us for live streaming on www.facebook.com/Radio Nigeria Network or simply Radio Nigeria. We'll take some messages. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
The National Center for Disease Control has informed me that a large proportion of new infections are now occurring in our communities through person-to-person contacts. So we must pay attention to the danger of close contact between person to person. At this point, I will remind all Nigerians to continue to take responsibility for the recommended measures to prevent transmission, including maintaining physical distancing, good personal hygiene, and staying at home.
Have you not heard of coronavirus? Coronavirus? Yes, COVID-19. You know, prevention is better than cure. Always have your hand sanitizer with you. Always remember to wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. Yes. Now, maintain physical distance. I've not said you should run away from each other. Anytime you want to cough or sneeze, you do it into your bent elbow. Fellow Nigerians, our culture encourages cleanliness.
This message is from FRCN and NCAC.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Thanks for being there. If you're just joining us, the program is Have Your Say, coming to you live on the network service of Radio Nigeria. And we have as our guest the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osagie Ihianire. He has been speaking on the giant strides of the present administration in the health sector and also in view of the present COVID-19 pandemic that the entire globe has been battling with. It's now time for us to hear from Nigerians so that you can be part of the conversation. The lines we announced earlier are now open so that you can call in and make your contributions. Once again, the lines are 0807-622-6771 and 0705-864-2473. Hello? Hello? We have a first caller. Hello?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Your name and location, please. Go ahead.
Mr. Victor from Sabudawa in Lagos State.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I greet my brother there, the Honorable Minister for Health.
Yes, you can hear.
He's somebody that we are very proud of. He has spoken very well. Now, COVID-19 is something that has come to really teach us a lesson that we have left undone. Those things that we are supposed to have done, hence things are falling apart, especially in the health sector. I think we have not seen that the health sector in our country, Nigeria, is not very, very encouraging. And this is the time now for us to fix it up. Right. If we do know, if we fail to fix it up by now, then we can never have it again. Now, my solution is that all PHC centers, they should ensure that the establishment of them, they should make them, get them to a particular standard that they can be regarded as something like the general hospitals that we have. Okay. So that the other hospitals that we now consider as general hospitals will now be something that we consider as teaching hospitals.
All right, thank you.
If we do that one, I think by the time we'll be talking of any virus, any dangerous ailment, we can overtake them.
All right, thank you. I think you've made your point, Bishop.
Having said that again, I want to appeal to the Honorable Minister for Health. Let him please use his good offices to ensure that these pharmacies that they are encouraged, let them be able to really bring out drugs. They should be so financed to an extent that even this COVID-19 of the team, that the solution can be sought to it. We have good property. What we do all the time is to make more emphasis on the medical line. That is the medical process.
All right, thank you very much.
The pharmacies, it appears as if they are not being recognized.
Bishop, please round up. You have a few seconds.
Lord, Mr. Please, I am putting this on to you, and I know it can help. Thank you. God bless all of us.
Thank you, Bishop Isong. Hello, yes, your name and where you're calling from. Hello? Yes, we can hear you. Hello? Yes, your name and where you're calling from, and then go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, please, we can hear you loud and clear. Just tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and go ahead.
I don't know, we're calling from Jos.
Yes, good morning, ma'am.
Okay, the Honourable Minister, I extend my greetings to you. The budget for health should be increased so that all health activities will be well equipped to cope with health issues. Even the primary health centers, which is very close to the grassroots. Then again, I want to know about this testing that is going on globally. I'm aware that South Africa has keyed in. When will Nigeria key into the testing? Then what happened to the Madagascar COVID-19 drug? Has it been put in the archives? We want to have an update. Then I want to also observe that physical distancing in our markets is very, very difficult the way it is. So I suggest that we should have street and area markets which should be that should be encouraged, while the major markets should be locked down for now. If not, we are going to have a spike. Then the wearing of face masks, it is not properly worn. I used to watch your briefings. You told us time to time number that the locally made masks, we should get them washed. And if the kind of job we are doing makes us to go out so often, we should have 2 or 3 of it. But it's not what is happening. So people wear these masks from Monday to Friday without washing them. So I don't know what's going to happen. You know, it might lead to a spike. Right. And now in most states now, we are having cluster spread, not even community spread. So please, you should step up testing, assist states, now that you have handed over to states, some states are not cooked, so they can now go and test. They have market testing in those areas.
All right, thank you.
If not, I don't know what will happen. So about schools, let's not talk about schools for now. God bless Nigeria. Let's take responsibility.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. Yes, let's take 1 or 2 more calls, then we'll come back to the Minister for response. Hello, your location?
Good morning, Honourable Minister.
Good morning.
My name, of course, is Uguduwa. I come from Imo State.
All right.
Yeah, there is a saying that who fails to plan has already planned to fail. Indeed, Nigeria should use the sudden outbreak of COVID-19 to put their health sector in order. To prepare for the rainy day of similar outbreak in future. All the R's and T's should be dotted and crossed effectively, together with plugging every leak flow, such as providing our health workers with adequate protective equipment and creating the enabling playground, such as paying the salaries and allowances as attractive and adequately too, in order to prevent brain drain that may jeopardize our health sector and affect us adversely during such disease outbreak like the one we are currently experiencing.
All right. Thank you very much, Judu Buaja. Hello? One last one for now. Hello? Hello, tell us who you are and your location, please. Yes, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
My name is Odaze. I'm reaching you from Ilad. Good morning, sir. Honorable Minister.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for the hard work. Thank you. Now, that doctor's strike was quite unpleasant. It should never happen again. Sir, when considering opening of schools, the school facilities in the rural areas must be thoroughly studied and make sure that it is properly done. I'm talking of the rural areas where you have about 60 pupils in one classroom, no halls, no toilet facilities. Then, of course, our markets must be decentralized so that we have neighborhood markets. Every village should do their marketing in their area, not going to those big markets and everybody is rubbing on everybody. Then, of course, testing of COVID-19 has increased. How about and training of caregivers? Just as much as we pray for the COVID to go away, we must be careful just in case it gets out of hand. What do we do? So that we don't get caught unawares or become overwhelmed. We should go back to massive sensitization, sir, of the citizenry. In all our real languages, town hall meetings should increase. All these radio stations we have all over the place should be put in use. Nigerians listen to the radio much more than anything else. Every family in Nigeria virtually has a radio. Now, the NGOs, the civil rights organizations, all of them must come out now, just the way they all came out during the rape campaign, so that we know exactly how to get our people out of the woods and make them know that COVID-19 is real. Most people in the coral areas don't think it's a joke. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Amen to that. Yes, over to you now, Minister, your response to these contributions made by some Nigerians.
Thank you very much. I'm very impressed by the questions that I've heard here, and some of them looked as if they have even been reading our minds. The health sector has been looking at the challenge posed by COVID-19 and sees it as an opportunity to upgrade itself. And where we are beginning is with the primary healthcare sector, beginning at the foundation. In fact, even below foundation, we have a program called the CHIPS program, which is Community Health Influencers program that are going to work with communities and be connected to the primary healthcare center. In fact, we have redesigned the primary healthcare center. The pattern of it has changed. It will now, every primary healthcare center, as my friend from Sabuni Daura suggested, will contain a staff quarter where people can be available to render service around the clock. Every health center should have electricity, and if possible, the solar-powered electricity, so that they have light around the clock, and then water supply. Once you have those things, staff around the clock, water and light, you can deliver service. The second is training. We have expanded the package, minimum package of service that is to be rendered. As you know, we have redesigned the manual for the basic healthcare to increase package of services that will even include operations and be able to connect the primary healthcare center to the secondary healthcare center. So now we have a package of services that is much better than what was previously thought. This is something that is in the ambit of a national health insurance scheme and the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, coordinated by us, and creating also for the first time a national emergency medical system, an ambulance system that will be able to move patients between one place and the other, and also attend to patients in case of emergency. So the health sector is being redesigned at the bottom, and at the middle, and at the top also the financing sector and the management sector. Tertiary hospitals and the specialty hospitals require modern management and of course the equipment, and to improve the productivity of doctors and nurses. In this regard, we must definitely be able to repair the relationships among all the segments of health workers, from doctors down to pharmacists to laboratory and so on, so that there is synergy rather than antagonism. So those are all things that we have been working on quietly and building up a new pattern that will give us a robust health sector, and creating at the very top specialty hospitals that will be able to attend to very specified problems, so that nobody needs to go abroad for treatment. So the super specialty hospitals are also part of the design we have had. And the health budget...
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, the health budget that was mentioned, yes, we are looking for increase in budget, but we also realize that health cannot be financed entirely by government. The private sector has to come in. So we are looking for ways of being able to engage the private sector. The government has brought in the 1% of a consolidated revenue fund for primary health care, basic health care, and we are working on how to use that one most judiciously, and looking for further contributors to that fund to expand the services that you can get. And that connects directly with testing. Nigeria is testing, trying to increase testing. And as we increase testing for COVID-19, we find more cases. Yes, it's correct that testing, identifying cases must lead to treatment and isolation. And that is where no country has been prepared. Many countries have been taken by surprise by the COVID-19 outbreak. It's not only Nigeria, but we are scrambling to make more places available for observation of patients who have no symptoms and treatment of those who have symptoms, and those very critical ones that require even intensive care. So we are working on those ones, but we work very closely with the state governors have been working with us very well on that. Some states are more prepared. For example, Lagos, they had experience from Ebola, and others are less prepared because they had no experience, and we're trying to build that experience, do a lot of training and a lot of sensitization of the public. Now, with the Madagascar, medicines, we have sent them to all our research centers. Just yesterday, I wrote a letter to these research centers to give me preliminary result. What have you found so far? Even if you have not finished your analysis, let us know what you want. And how far you have gone, so that we can speak to the public, because the public also wants to know. Now, with regard to markets and face mask wearing, I want to emphasize something I said before. This is not just the federal government initiative alone. It's everybody. It's the federal government, there's the state government, there's the local government, there's the ward development, there's the community, and then there are the individuals and the families. Now, how markets should be, the community can regulate. The community can get together and say, now this is the situation. Let us redesign our market. Let us have small neighborhood markets, which somebody suggested just now. Very good idea. We now use neighborhood market, but this can only be done at community level or at ward level. So those are the contributions that can come from that area. The federal government is not going to have to do this by itself, by policing all over the place. No, it's a combined effort where once you understand, community leaders can say, now we understand the message. We want to reorganize our markets. We want to make it compulsory for everybody to wear a mask, because the community can enforce mask wearing. It's not the federal government can say, yes, it's necessary. But the enforcement, or rather, let us say, the actual monitoring of it, is the community's work. So we want community leaders to also step up and know that they're with us.
Reaction to the last caller, then we can now take messages.
Okay.
Reaction to the last caller, then we'll take messages.
Yeah, the last caller about schools, yes, we already said that is a very good idea. Our policy is to strive for the best, and we are striving for the best outcomes and also preparing for the worst, so that we are trying very hard to make sure that even if the situation gets worse than this, we are able to cope and we are preparing with all our energy to make sure that we have training delivered, we have enough materials for use of our healthcare workers and our caregivers, and avoiding any kind of strike. I agree with you, this is not a time for strikes at all. And I think we've answered most of the questions.
Okay, let's now go to our social media platforms. We have contributions, quite many of them, but we'll take the few we can. Oladusu Ademola from Abeokuta says, I sincerely appreciate and commend the federal government for ongoing revolution in the health sector. I wish to call the attention of the Honorable Minister and Chairman, Health Committee, to the Federal Government Primary Healthcare Center at Federal Housing Estate, Olomore, Abeokuta, Ogun State. The multi-million naira project is said to have been initiated when Senator Iyabo Obasanjo Bello was the chairman, Senate Committee on Health. Unfortunately, it has been abandoned since 2022. 2022, that's serious. Or I believe it was, he must have been referring to some years ago. On 2002 rather, on state of dilapidation, pictures are forwarded. We plead that public fund not go to waste, or should not go to waste. Government should salvage this huge project for grassroots healthcare. Our Honorable Minister, we have some pictures there, probably of the center, which our listeners can see, but that's just an idea. Probably we'll study them after the program. Now, Lebara, she's watching live from Owerri. She says, opening schools now will be computer productive. All these measures are hardly implementable. Generally, where are the isolation centers, medical facilities, and money to pay in the states? Both private and public schools cannot meet up with these strict guidelines. Where are the teaching materials and instructional aids? Let this government, okay, let's find a way for online teaching till things improve. Okay, thank you. Alike Dagba Polycarp says, I'm watching live from Agyaragu, Jenkwe Development Area, that's in Nasarawa State. Okay, Muruchalamani is watching, joining us also. Thank you. We have Oke Anyanwu from Ehime Mbano, Imo State. He says, I would like to thank the Honorable Minister of Health for his efforts at sensitizing the public on measures to combat COVID-19 in Nigeria at the moment. Keep it up. That's thumbs up for you, sir. Pastor Iyara Ikom from, I believe, Cross River State says, thanks for this program. My question is this: how are we sure that bodies killed by this virus are buried or unburied will not infest the community in future? Excuse me. I suggest that a chemical such as raw acid be poured on such bodies before covering the graves. Indians cremate their dead bodies after necessary ceremonies. It is the soul that lives again eternally, not the body. That's quite a serious one. We have John from Abuja. He says, on that purported Kogi Index case, the persons involved refused to agree that they had COVID-19. Please give us more details on that. Again, if they are really infected, what haven't we got more cases? Why haven't we got more cases in the state? And let me see if we can take the last two. Mustafa from Abuja says, in the fight against COVID-19, the FG laid down some protocols. Most states are not adhering to interstate lockdown. What is your sector doing to ensure adequate enforcement of the laid down protocols? And Adao Nogu from Jos again says, when will Nigeria join in the trial testing of possible drug for the treatment of COVID-19, which is ongoing globally? I am aware, okay, I think that's the most we can take. We'll still take more messages as time goes, as we proceed on the program. Let's take a few calls, then we'll come back to you, Honorable Minister, to just give a response to these issues raised. Yes, hello. Who do we have on the line? Your name and location,
hello,
please.
good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
My name is Nasser Hussein. I'm calling from Gusau, the capital of Zamfara State.
Okay, please go ahead.
Let me grant this our guest today. Hello, good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yes, he can hear you. The minister can hear you.
Yes, sir. I am very, very appreciating this program. That is why I used to call you at any time as usual.
Oh, thank you so much.
Please, what advice in this program there is that people are expressing their concern in this program. Please, we need to all our guests to consider us on this radio, because you are not even see them and start them with anything except this radio. That is why I advise them to call and consider on this program. Happy as Thank you very much. God bless you. All
right, thank you all the same. We'll just keep doing our best to have our guests come on. As you can see, they usually reply, or as you can hear, they usually reply to issues raised by callers and contributors. Thank you once again. Yes, next caller, tell us who you are and your location, please, and go ahead.
My name is Chief Fidel Onyeneke, and I'm calling from Owerri in Imo State.
Yes, please.
Good morning, Honorable Minister.
Good morning.
Let us use the opportunity of this pandemic and fund and establish companies that will manufacture ventilators and oxygen concentrators, so that they will be well funded and permanent in the country. Above all, we also need to establish more primary health care facilities in our rural areas. Very, very important. The health departments of the various local government areas are not working as expected. Let us make them carry out their functions and fund them very well, so that they will go into sanitary inspection, education of people on hygiene, inspection of facilities at the rural areas, and sensitize the people so that even after this pandemic, it will become a permanent feature. People will now know how to live safe and keep simple hygiene. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I'm Fidel.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Okay, let's, hello? One more call now. Our time is fast spent. Hello, good morning. Your name and location.
Patrick. Hello, good morning.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Comrade Master Patrick Okoro Krafo, calling from Atari Village, Arochukwu. Good morning, Honorable Minister and our uncle.
Good morning.
Honorable Minister, sir, thank God that the federal government has planned for the local schools. I would suggest that for candidates coming to write their SS3, WAEC, NATEC, and NECO, the government should make it compulsory that all those SS3 students as you know, our students and private schools, they should come with their face mask and sanitizer. Each candidate, the parents must produce to at least 3. Honorable Minister Sam, you know that for today, as we are talking this thing now, then in short, 7% of Nigerians does not believe that all this COVID-19 exists. So there is need for government to make sure the awareness goes wider. Because if the awareness goes wider, this increase of index will reduce. Because the awareness is just, will I say, is shaking or is not going deep down to the communities and to the villages and to the people around the region. And even the township system is not. People are still myopic in terms of this issue because the area will make this awareness more proactive for all of Nigerians. It will be better for us because we are better to do that now. You see the increase, it will gain. We pray that Nigeria will learn now. Let's mark wash our hands. Thank you very much. Uklapo Patrick from Atare in Aruchuku, Abia State.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Patrick Okorafor. Yes, back to you, Honorable Minister.
Well, thank you very much for all the contributions here. First of all, let me say that we believe that the health system in Nigeria is going to improve, and but it is going to have to be with the collaboration of everybody. We are encouraging the private sector also to come in. You are talking about manufacturing of ventilators and oxygen concentrators. Yes. We are going to have to encourage the private sector to seize the opportunity and go into this, create their own factories. Government will support the effort, but most of the initiative and the funding has to come from the private sector, including international partners. We are looking for that, and because Nigeria is also a hub to supply Africa and most of West Africa, quite certainly. So the effort is that it is everybody's combined initiative. Now, as for the awareness, again, that is something that everybody needs to be involved in. The government lays down the message to carry it down to the grassroots. You can do that. You can help. The community leaders can now help, can take it up from there, and local governments and the media also do their bit. But the federal cannot always get down to the grassroots. So it's a step down of information that depends on participation of everybody. Teachers, community leaders, and opinion leaders need to be able to carry the message down to where it belongs. That's what government is hoping for and looking for. And it seems to be, I think the federal government at the top can go right down to the grassroots. That's not the way it works. In every country, there's a passing of the baton from one to the state to the local government to the ward, from the ward to the community, and community to the family. That's the way it goes down. So everybody should look at it as their own contribution and their own engagement in passing the message on.
Okay, Honorable Minister, at this time we just wanted to give a final advice to Nigerians. Of course, at this point, so many Nigerians want to know what to do next, what they should expect very soon. So just a general advice to Nigerians as last words on the program.
The very first is to have everybody put on their mask once you leave your house, particularly those who we call the vulnerable. Those are the ones who already have pre-existing illness. If you have hypertension, you have diabetes, or maybe you are under treatment for any major kind of disease, maybe cancer, HIV, TB, and so on, you should be wearing your mask to protect yourself. Because the majority of the cases or the fatalities we have are people who have previous illnesses inside their system. And there are also people who are above a certain age. We see that most of the fatalities we've had so far have been over 50 years of age. So therefore, people at that age group should protect themselves. Don't go out unnecessarily. If you see a crowd, avoid the crowd, because this is one of the most easily transferable diseases you can find that has ever existed. Very easy to transmit from one to the other. So therefore, being in a crowd exposes you to the risk. Wash your hands regularly to make sure that surfaces you touched that may have been contaminated are not transferred by mistake to your eyes or to your mouth or to your nose. Sanitize where you need to sanitize, and then make sure that you keep your life quiet and don't engage in any kind of emotional situation. Even at parties, avoid, I'm not saying you shouldn't pray, you can pray in your house, but avoid anything that puts you into a situation where you are at risk.
All right, very shortly, before we go, many Nigerians also want to know, is there a possibility of another lockdown if we keep noticing cases of people flaunting directives to check the spread of COVID-19?
That is why we keep emphasizing the non-pharmaceutical intervention. If everybody is aware of it and cooperating, then the figures will go down or stabilize. Once the figures of fatalities and infections are stabilized, then we know that results are coming up. You see some countries where they released the lockdown, and they found very serious spike, so they had to reimpose the lockdown. So we don't want to go into that situation. We are looking for the help and support from communities, from individuals, from citizens, to make sure that we all keep ourselves safe and don't have to take drastic measures.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Minister. We have been speaking with the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Usage Nhanire, on government's efforts towards combating COVID-19 and assessing the present administration in the last 5 years. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, that's also to thank the production crew in person of the news producers Conrad Labe and Hassan Hussein. Online editor was Timothy Bamidele. ICT was Israel Chiokaha. Studio manager Prince Afonia Ugweze. Engineer was Hassan Usman. Photographer Sadiq Saromi. Cameras were handled by Fuluwa Oluyede and Chinedu Megwa. Our facilitator was Oluwa Damilolaoni. Producer Oledo Imbiwe. Executive producer Sani Suleiman. Special appreciation to the Director General of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN, Dr. Mansour Liman, for giving us this platform. Join us next week for another edition of Have Your Say. I am Olayemi Daniel saying stay safe. COVID-19 is a respecter of no one. Goodbye.